Good evening, everyone. This is the October 16th meeting of the Revere City Council's Zoning Subcommittee. The members of our subcommittee that are present this evening are Councilors Keefe and McKenna. We're also joined by Councilor Arthur Guanasso. I believe the way we'll start this meeting is I'll open it up to Frank Stringy for a little bit of a briefing on this. Then we'll open it up to councilors for questions, and then I know the Revere Beautification Committee is here as well. So any input, questions, or thoughts from the community will also add.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This resulted as due to the Revere Beautification Committee contacting former Councilor Bob Hass and bringing this to light to take a closer look at our billboard ordinances and further restrict and regulate billboards across the city. So the Planning Board at their public hearing heard from the Revere Beautification Committee, and in our recommendation to the City Council, recommended a smaller committee be established consistent of members of the Zoning Subcommittee, myself, a member of the Revere Beautification Committee, representative from the Mayor's Office and the City Solicitor's Office. And we meet from time to time to take a closer look at our existing ordinances and what we can do to tighten them up and make further recommendations to the City Council Zoning Subcommittee, and then present it to the City Council as a whole. So I guess I can kind of give an overview of what we have now on the books for regulating billboards. And they are allowed only by special permit by the City Council, but they are allowed in our GB District, Central Business District, Highway Business District, TED District, Limited Industrial District, and Industrial Park District. So there are a number of districts throughout the city that they are allowed by special permit in the City Council. I think one of our goals is to tighten that up. The GB District, CB District, and a lot of these districts closely abut residential neighborhoods, and those where the impacts are felt. So in addition to that, the regular ordinances of the City of Revere has a sign section that governs billboards, and they're not allowed within 100 feet of a public way, 300 feet of any residential area, and 100 feet from parks or other billboards. So there are regulations now that govern these, but I think what we want to do is take a closer look and kind of tighten them up. And right now there are loopholes, and they are loose. As we've seen in the past, billboards have been allowed in the city in areas that are close to residential areas. So I mean, that's the goal, and I think through the zoning subcommittee tonight we can establish a working committee that with a chairperson, and we can have regular meetings until we come out and hammer out a number of recommendations for changes and present those changes to the zoning subcommittee and then to the City Council for public hearings. Okay.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I think that's a great way to start the meeting. I'll start with councilors. Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. This comes at a great time. I've been campaigning on Revere Street and Broadway, and I've had to stare at that ugly billboard that is in deplorable condition right in the heart of our city, where we so hard work to beautify our area. Not only is the structure itself ugly that it needs to be done over, but all the old paint, the old sign is hanging off. And every person standing with me from my committee has made comment on this. And that's a blight on all of us, to allow Clear Channel to leave our billboard so ugly and so unkept right in the heart of our city. We've had all those visitors come to see the Columbus Day Parade who braved the rain. To what? To see that ugly billboard. And so I think your outline, Frank, is perfect. I think the zoning subcommittee, in conjunction with the beautification committee and yourself, would be a good work task force to finally put some ordinances on the books that prohibits billboards in certain areas. And I certainly think that maybe the TED district, but that's just a stretch without even putting any thought into it. I think certainly GB, it's not, no longer practical. And I think that it's one that has to be reviewed by this board. And when it's offered out to the council of the whole, you can rest assured that I think that they will listen this time. I think that the council gets the message, and I think that they've seen what I've seen and what other people have spoke about, that this is really unsightly in our community. And we did yeoman's work to make Broadway beautiful. And it took a few years. This was like 6, 8 years of planning, and then another 8 years to get it actually completed. And then the Clear Channel's allowed to have that thing hanging over right in the center of it. It's completely unacceptable. So, Madam Chairperson, to membership of the zoning subcommittee, I think this is a step in the right direction. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Keith.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I obviously agree with Arthur Guanasso and Mr. Stringy coming up with some ideas. We've been bouncing around different ideas for a few years, and I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Giampo while Bob Hass was also working with him. So it's long overdue, as everyone probably would understand. The committee, forming an actual committee to do this with people from the beautification committee and the planning board, and it doesn't have to be just councilors. I mean, maybe if there's one council that spearheads it, that would be great. I'm not sure if you planned on doing that, Councilor Janino, but we want to get this ball rolling because this has been going on far too long. We all understand, and it's something that there's so many great ideas that are out there, but we want to probably see something into an implementation phase sooner rather than later. So I'm all in favor of this side group or a subcommittee working on it with members of our community and members of our mayor's office and city staff to put it together. Certainly Frank and even Ron and the beautification committee probably have better ideas than I do. So I would always lend way towards the experts on that. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I also agree with my councilors on my right. I just feel that billboards are a distraction. We're trying to change the image of our city, and it makes it not good to see all these billboards going up. Could I ask a question to Frank? Frank, how many billboards have been put up in the last, I don't know, say 6 months? Has there been any?
No, not in the past year or so.
Okay.
There are a number of billboards that exist in the city. According to the State Advertising Board, the city of Revere has the most billboards in any other community in the greater Boston area.
Yeah.
I think it's upwards of like 80 at one time. So a lot of those are pre-existing non-conforming billboards that we can't touch, but we can certainly prevent any proliferation of billboards in the city. And as you mentioned, the safety issues that are now involved with motorists, with the digital billboards, and I think we want to heavily regulate those digital billboards and digital signs throughout the city as a part of this working group. And it takes away from the city's image and
It does.
detracts from community character. So.
Yep, I agree. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And if I may speak from the chair, this is definitely something I'd be happy to be a part of and happy to meet with you on. I know I was a part of this several years ago when Councilor Hass started this, and as some of you mentioned, there is a moratorium currently for billboards, so there haven't been any in recent years since the moratorium passed. But the moratorium's purpose was so that we could look at this ordinance and tighten it up and tie up some loose ends to make sure that after it's over, we have all the tools that we need to make this right. I know that there are several that come to mind when I think about our city. The one on Revere Street and Broadway that Councilor Guanasso mentioned is one that stands out so strongly right now. I know you guys are familiar with several on Squire Road that are incredibly bright, and there are residential homes right across the way that have to look at these. Ward 6, if Councilor Patch was here, has a ton that are literally in people's yards. So I think it's definitely something we need to look at in the city and tighten up, and I'd be happy to be a part of that. At this time, I'll open it up to the Beautification Committee if you'd like to speak. Thank you.
My name is Ron Champeau from the Beautification Committee. And his partner, Carol Haney.
Okay. I'm amazed. It only took us 7 years.
7 years.
7 years to get to this point, but thank God we are at this point. And I really, truly appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this. And I really hope that Carol is a part of it too. She's well-versed and quite knowledgeable about this issue. I think, I agree 100% with Frank. We need a small group, 6, 7 people max, work on this, focus on it. I don't think it'll take that long. I mean, I think there's enough, we have enough knowledge to solve this. I think the one thing I would like to focus on is to develop a new paradigm to deal with billboards, and a new way to deal with signs in our city. We can do it. This isn't rocket science, and it's easily solvable. The number of billboards, it's obvious. We have to address the issue of what exists in our city. So I think, you know, I just hope that we can work together, solve this problem. I mean, with the administration, I don't know who the members of the committee are going to be, but would be more than willing to be of assistance and help in developing the new comprehensive billboard ordinance for the city. And it's a pleasure. This is a tremendous achievement.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and I agree with everything that Ron has said. And this is the second, as you know, moratorium. We've extended it. Actually, I think it's the third. But we would like to hopefully get this done before this moratorium expires. And I hope that everyone is open to new ideas of how to address this problem, because it is a real problem in our city.
I agree.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak? So perhaps we could take this opportunity in this time, since we have a good amount of time allotted, to plan how we can arrange this. I know I'll volunteer myself, and Frank, I think you're being voluntold, but thank you for volunteering. Counselors?
Thank you, Councilor Janino. I recommend then you become the head of this subcommittee, subcommittee, and obviously I would be willing to be a participant as well. If I would suggest not filling it with councilors. I think the community input's important. So if Councilor Patch or Councilor Guanasso, or Councilor Novoselsky or McKenna, who probably have a little bit more highway business than me, or more billboards in their area than I would step back, but I'd be happy to help out in this plight as well.
Perfect. And what we can do, Councilor Keefe, is we can put, you know, I think we have to be careful of how many counselors we have to put on the committee, because if it's over a certain number of voting members, then we have to make it a council subcommittee. But if, you know, 2 or 3 counselors are on it, shouldn't be a problem at all. We can send out an email and open it up to everyone, figure out who to appoint, and then from that point on, maybe, I honestly think this is something we could accomplish within 2 or 3 meetings. I think that you guys have more education on this than anyone in the community, and you've been, again, working on it for close to 10 years, if not longer. So I think that a lot of it's already on paper, and it's just a matter of how we can finalize it, make it nice and neat, and really tighten up all the loose ends. Councilor Guanasso?
Madam Chairperson, I think the first order of a business, and just speaking off the record, and you can deal with it as you wish, the way we should attack this is first the zoning. Go and sit with Frank and go over each parcel of the zoning and see, because we know we can't prohibit it because they would take that to the courts and win. So we'll give them, like we did with medical marijuana, we give them the TED district, and okay, there's a little area there, and we cover the law by doing so. So, and I think this is the same approach we take to this. Frank alluded to the fact that we can't take down those that currently exist. But once that location is no longer in use, we should have a game plan in place that we do not replace that, and it doesn't go in another location. There's no trade-off with that. The billboard is eliminated, and that's it. And so wording to that effect that has to be outlined, drafted up here, given to the city solicitor before they comes to the committee of the council as a whole for a vote. And I think once you have that game plan in place with the background and the evidence and the expertise that the beautification committee will present, we're going to have a winning situation going on, and I think it's going to be beneficial to all of us. And I think finally we'll put grips onto this unsightly thing, because that billboard down there is absolutely driving me crazy. And I stared at it again this morning, looking at it, saying how disgraceful that is, that exists there. And I might add, as a footnote, I gave it to Inspectional Services to find them, and they're going to do so. And he came and he saw it, and I said, this is unacceptable. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Counselor. So I think that we'll definitely have to send out an email, open it up to all counselors, and at least have them, present. If they want to attend the meeting, we can utilize the council chambers as a meeting place for this. I think that would be perfectly appropriate. We can definitely ask the city solicitor if he can be present, as well as any members of the beautification committee. Do you guys have certain people appointed that you'd like to be on? Perfect, perfect. So then that would be 3 of us present, and then we can open up to counselors, and hopefully 2 or 3 counselors, which we can establish. And then, are there certain dates or days of the week that work best that we could establish this? All right, so we'll make a note of that, and perhaps do a weekday around 5 o'clock, so we can use the council chambers and televise it and open up to the public. And if there's anyone watching or that at home that's not at this meeting that's interested in being a part of it, you can email myself or the city clerk to be involved. Our email addresses are all on the city's website, on the city council webpage. Or any city councilor, you can reach out to your ward councilor and they can pass the information along. But if you reach out to myself or the clerk directly, that'll probably be the best way. And Madam Clerk, do you know what the time frame is for the moratorium? When?
6 months. I'll have to see the date. It was actually signed by the mayor, so it'll be 6 months from that.
Okay. It would be great if we could do this by the end of the year, if we could meet.
Excuse me, I didn't hear. What did you say? When's the 6 month?
She has to look at what date it was 6 months from when the mayor signed it. I think best case scenario, if we could get this done by the end of the year, that would be fantastic. If we could do something before the last meeting of the year, so perhaps if we could schedule a meeting in October and then maybe 2 in November, and then try to vote on it.
Now, are you suggesting, if I may ask, that we hold a public, committee gets together, the committee is public, the meeting?
No, we can just use the council chambers. But definitely, if there are people that have input, absolutely. I think it's definitely close to.
No, it's not up. No, it's not up yet. I don't think so.
Frank, do you have any?
Madam Chairperson, just a point of information.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All the meetings are public, so you would have to, you would be in violation of the open meeting law if you didn't make them public. So the public would be available to participate in any meeting that they decided to come to.
We were just talking about getting the committee, a small committee together to come up with the thing, and then, of course, when you bring it to the council,
Right.
everyone would know.
Yep.
Yeah, but we're talking about the original group.
Okay.
I would recommend roundtable discussion with
And
small
and
groups.
you can't put it outside, it's stupid not to know.
I agree.
I totally agree with Frank. If you have too broad a group, that can be a problem. I mean, as we all know in committees. At the public meeting, of course, when we present the ideas of a smaller subgroup, then that would be definitely open to the public. But I agree with Frank. It should be like 6, 7 people, something like that. That's it. And then present those ideas to the committee here, the zoning committee.
Perfect.
Just a
So-
thought.
So I believe with the city solicitor, if we have the city solicitor as well as city planner, that's 4 of us, and that opens it up for a counselor, and then anyone else in the beautification committee, or maybe a representative from the mayor's office, if someone's interested in being a part of this, and then we can, again, I'd like to ideally schedule something by the end of this month, and then hopefully 2 in November, so we can get it finalized before the end of the year, because you guys have waited long enough to see something happen with this, so I'd really like to see it happen. I think the best way to do this is we'll get an email chain going, we'll get everyone's email address, plan for the first meeting, and then go from there. Does anyone else? You will send out the email? Yes. Yep, I can coordinate that. It's up to you. I'll volunteer unless you would like to. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, for people that can't hear against the mic, what we can do is, we'll work out the details of the subcommittee. So the city clerk just informed me that the moratorium is over next month. So hopefully we can get a move on it by next month before the moratorium's over, because again, I believe that Councilor Hass's initial wish was to get this moratorium as a time frame to work on this. So I think that would be sooner rather than later, so we can get that email sent out. I mean, we still have a good amount of time before the council meeting tonight, establish a date and go from there. Anyone else have any questions? Perfect. This concludes the zoning committee, and this will be reported out to the committee of the whole this evening. All in favor? All opposed?